You guys, I've been avoiding this, but I have to make this I have to make this video because I have a big mouth and I have lots of thoughts and I'm ADHD. So you guys have to suffer hearing my opinion. And it's a lot. I have lots of opinions about this trailer. But before we get started with this breakdown and my overall thoughts, hi and welcome to the video. It's your girl Ray. And I am your favorite queer Black pop culture critic, media nerd, and of course, professional side-eye distributor. Well, you guys can't really see me side-eyeing, but know that I'm side-eyeing a lot of stuff, I promise you. But here on my channel, we break down TV shows, movies, books, and whatever mess Hollywood just throws at us, while asking the real questions, like where are the Black queer characters who don't get killed off in episode 2, and who approved this script? Honestly, that is a question that you will hear me say a lot. And listen, if you love deep dives, hot takes, and lovingly dragging your faves for the greater good of representation, you're in the right place. So buckle up, stay hydrated, and let's get into this media mess together, shall we? So, Winx Club. Oh, Winx Club. For those of you guys who do not know, I have been a huge Winx Club fan for probably the beginning of days. I actually have one of my very first videos and one of my longest videos is a breakdown of the Winx Club for Kids dub, which in my opinion, and you can argue with your mama, is the better dub. It's way better than what we got for Nickelodeon. I refuse to even acknowledge, honestly, that dub. And while I do kind of like the Cinelume dub, and I kind of like the Rainbow, wait, no, the Cinelume dub is the Rainbow dub. When I learned that we were getting another reboot, I was honestly really, really hesitant because we all know the abysmal live action show that shall not be named. Even though for some reason it got 2 seasons. I don't know how. Thank God it was canceled. But we found out, a couple years ago that they were having another reboot. Rainbow got another reboot, which I'm honestly pretty surprised that it took them this long to get the news about it. Because if there's one thing that we know with Rainbow is that they have a bunch of money. And Winx Club is one of their biggest IPs, but I assume this is because they probably were still partnered up with Nickelodeon and Netflix, and they had to wait for those contracts, to get finished. But we have a new reboot, and from early on, the beginning pictures of this reboot looked really, really promising. It looked really, really nice. However, oh dear Lord, as time went on and more pictures and news came out about the reboot, it quickly became apparent that not everything was good in its foundation, its building. There was some lumps in the buttermilk, as my grandma used to say. And it's one of the things that unless you are just a blind Winx Club supporter, you honestly would have a problem with. And before we get started, and before we continue, let me go ahead and slap a big old allegedly disclaimer on in front of this, because we are going to talk about ChatGPT allegations, Mid-Journey allegations, a whole bunch of allegations, but basically Gen AI. And like I said, a big slap of allegedly, even though there's somewhat proof, even though there is heavy amounts of proof. But let's go ahead and break down this trailer, shall we? Honestly, in the beginning, I was not really liking the whole, Bloom is just an ordinary girl with an ordinary life who all of a sudden fairies fall into her lap. That's not honestly who Bloom was. And Bloom was supposed to be a girl who loves fairies. She loves mystical nonsense, which also is kind of funny when you realize about all the stuff and the shenanigans they get into in season 4. Season 4, yeah. But even then, with these early animations, things just look so stiff to me. And then we get to Bloom meeting Flora and Stella, which I am not gonna lie, I am so disappointed that they just took away, not to my sister about this, they took away our pierced ogre. Okay, I'm not gonna lie.
Percy Jackson. Okay, Percy Jackson, bitch.
Well, no, they did it first, but also, okay. They took away our nipple troll. Our troll from the original had freaking piercings on his nipples.
I wanted nipple troll back out of anything in this reboot.
I wanted the nipple troll.
Right.
And instead we have like a chimera looking dude. And then just after Flora and Stella talk to her. By the way, their outfits look abysmal, and I will get to that. Flora and Stella talk, they just kidnap her. Like, there's no talking, there's no, we're just, you stumbled upon us by accident. No, they're there to find her, which kind of makes no sense. And then we get to Althea. I will admit, I am happy that they did not wash out the color palette, and they didn't go standard medieval castle like the live action did. But at the same time, I thought it's supposed to be pink. And then when you get to the school, there are witches here, which I actually find pretty interesting. I know one of the biggest critiques from the original, because there's a lot of critiques, but in the original series is that the witches, the specialists, and the fairies all went to different schools. And it wasn't that, it's more so they went to different schools. It was the fact that there was like clear witch discrimination. I know it's not funny, but it's like there's clear witch discrimination, honestly. Like I said, one of the main problems people had was that the witches and the fairies were separate, and they very much were very strong in the opinion witches are evil. Even though they established okay, if the fairies are princesses and queens and high ranked ladies of their planets, can we say the same thing for the witches? I'm not gonna lie, I've always wanted to see what a witch planet would look like, because they're also goth. Every single one of them are goths. I'm not saying goth is bad, but but the stereotypical goths that they have, give me some pastels. Give me some pastel goths. I feel like that would be a very good new color palette. And then when Stella brings Bloom to go meet the other girls, I can't get over how terrible, absolutely terrible their outfits are. Stella's outfit alone just looks trash, because my poor girl is not even tanned, first of all. She's super pale, she's paler than Bloom. And then they have her in bright yellow, bright greens. It just makes her look completely washed out. And I kind of do like though that they have Bloom understanding / learning her powers early. But at the same time, I feel like it sort of takes away her having that moment where she's like, oh, I'm considering leaving Althea because I don't have any powers. And then we get to the point where we allegedly meet her alleged half-brother, Damien. Rumor on the rumor mill is that he's supposed to be replacing Helia, and I will not take that. I will not take Helia removal. I barely understand their thing for Naboo. Rest in peace, my dude. And then when it comes to her parents, they look okay. I'm not gonna lie, they look okay. I also don't understand the whole Mitzi thing. I hope that they open up more life about her on Earth. But their hair never seems to match with the scene, right? There's some scenes where her hair looks a lot better. It looks a whole lot more rendered. And then there's other scenes where it just looks limp. I'm hoping that maybe she just got splashed with water or something. But it still makes no sense. Now, the only saving grace of this whole trailer, in my opinion, is how the witches look. And by witches, I mean Darcy, Icy, and Stormy. At least the creators knew better than to take away the witches serving. Because why in the world, in my opinion, do the witches look so much better than Bloom and the others? And then also they have this thing where she bumps into Icy, and Icy was like, oh my gosh, I think she's a fire fairy. And that single bump alone, I know is about to launch a million Bloom and Icy fics, which in my opinion is better. I I prefer her being like, even though I don't personally ship them, I prefer her being shipped with Icy rather than her being shipped with Valtor. That is a whole nother thing for a whole nother day. Also, they confirmed that that Stormy is black. I swear to God, you guys always whitewashing Stormy whenever she's in art annoys me. But I think also they took away Griselda. Like, well, not Griselda. No, yeah, Griselda. Griselda's not in here. Instead, we have Professor Griffin, who I think is working alongside her wife, Farragonda. And then the villain is this weird dude, like this unknown dude, who is just like, the new villain is this unknown character who I know a lot of people in the beginning thought might be Valtor, but no, I think he's completely different, which also is crazy because like in the original art, the villains were supposed to be the Wizards of the Black Circle, but then also that got changed to like, it was supposed to be Damien, which remember is supposed to be Bloom's alleged half brother, who is allegedly supposed to be Flora's love interest. And I'm just like, what in the world are they talking about? And it gets even worse when they go out into the forest. The outfits are terrible. What's her name? Stella would not be called dead. OG Stella would not be called dead in most of these outfits. Also, Stella does most of the talking. So does Bloom. And then you get like a little bit of Flora, but like the other girls hardly say anything. I hate that they're also like clearly shoving Aisha, Musa, and Tank doesn't say a word in this whole thing, by the way, but they're shoving them in the back. And then they have that stupid pose that Nickelodeon came up with whenever they transform. And it is, I would prefer, in my opinion, they do the classic thing that we got, from the OG before Nickelodeon got it, the whole let's go girls or let's transform.
Yes, someone didn't learn their lesson. Sun power! Yeah, they're pinned down! All right then, I'm going in. It's time for Winx!
Like, in my opinion, that makes more sense rather than saying, like, oh, magic Winx, and then strike a pose, and then they leave. And don't even get me started moving on to what the specialists look like. I will appreciate that they have some female specialists in here. They have some girls. I personally, I still kind of think that it takes away, and if you guys follow me on my social medias, you know how I feel about this. Personally, I feel like them adding female specialists and like male fairies and male witches, even though that's kind of already a thing, but specifically adding female specialists takes away how like majority of the realms are matriarchies. And I'm not saying that you have to, that you can't be badass and you can't fight and stuff like that. But I think personally it just takes it away because it's also canon that the specialists and the fairies hook up and like marry and stuff like that and create alliances and all that. But then if you have a female specialist, does she then just marry a male specialist? And like, what if one of, like, say that it's the crown princess, what if she has a sibling that has magic? Do they challenge each other for the throne? Like, it could be that I'm that friend that's too woke, that's thinking about all these extra things, like these extra problems, but it's just things that in the world building, because I'm a writer, my world building brain is like super developed, and I have all these millions of questions about how things can be added, how things can be taken away. And to make even crazier when it comes to how they don't really even add new stuff, in my opinion, in this trailer. This trailer looks like they're heavily linking on the nostalgia of our childhood, basically. And don't even get me started, let's get started on the outfits, because several of these outfits our OG baddies would not get caught dead wearing, Stella in particular, but majority of these outfits look terrible. The palettes are always clashing. There's 5 girls, 3 of them are blue. 3 of them's color palettes are blue. When in the OG, all of them, one way or another, had different color palettes or had, various shades. And when it comes to character identity, personally, having color palettes is a way, and this is not even a personal opinion, it's a fact. Having various color palettes enables the audience to connect and understand with the different characters. And it also makes no sense because, like, their Winx Club, like their Winx forms are all not really different, not that much different. And they've changed a lot throughout the different years. Apparently, we're gonna get into that. And I feel like a lot of the styles just don't make sense. Like the big draw to Winx Club in the early 2000s was the whole Y2K culture. Was, you know, how do I explain? Yeah, basically just Y2K. I'm trying to think about another way to explain it. But no, yeah, it's definitely Y2K. It was bright, it was colorful. And while this is bright and colorful, it's still very similar in color palette. And then also when it comes to, personally, like their Winx outfits, it's too fancy. And I had this conversation with a couple of my friends and my sister not too long ago on how the Winx transformation, the Winx form, basic form, is supposed to be baby. It's supposed to be bland. Well, not bland, like, you know, it's all unique. They have sparkles and whatever, but it's supposed to be simple. You know, like there's like the outfits that they have, in my opinion, look very much so like their Enchantix forms. Heck, some of them even look like Bloomix. God, Bloomix as a whole makes no sense to me. But if anything, it shows that they, and by they I mean the creators, were more so looking on snagging kids and snagging people's attention with the bright, shiny colors. And it's like, we don't need that. We don't need extravagance in the beginning, because in my opinion, think of it like this: if things are this bright and shiny and colorful and, you know, glittery and all that right now, what's it gonna look like when we get to, like, you know, the third season, which I'm assuming they'll have a third season? What's it gonna look like when we actually do get Enchantix? It's, you know, like, it's questions like that that make me really, really side-eye some of this. And then even, like, I'm not saying the outfits technically look bad. They're just overdone. They're way overdone. Except for the witches. I love how they eat, which is, okay. I love how they were able to keep the witches' original palettes. I love that. Everything looks normal, but they added, you know, they basically like did an updo of the body jewelry, and they made each type of body jewelry different and unique rather than it, you know, like being the same overall. And they also updated, you know, made basically like the witches' like civilian outfits look more modern, and they were able to translate it better to 3D. And I think it could be also the 3D that's throwing me, because personally I don't like it. If we had to do 3D animation, I would have preferred, and this is just my opinion, they should have gone with the 3D animation that we had from like the Magic Adventure and all that, you know, and the other movies that we had. We're not going to talk about the 3D that Nickelodeon did, which, now that I kind of think about it, actually wasn't that bad. I will never say those words ever again in my life. But I feel like them going for both realism and super cartoony is kind of what bit them in the butt. Not the buck. It is going to bite them in the butt when it comes to money, because the fact that they're relying on Netflix to distribute this shows that they know that most people have Netflix, you know, like I feel like they couldn't have gotten this on Nickelodeon, or they couldn't even gotten this their own streaming service, which I think about it, what does Rainbow Shows go on? I have no idea. I will look at that in the future. Now let's talk about the Gen AI allegations. And like I said, allegedly big allegations, warning in front of this, because while there is somewhat proof, not somewhat, there is, I do try to give people the benefit of the doubt. However, in this case, there is not really much benefit of the doubt. So let's start off with how the original designs looked. The original designs, in my opinion, fit Winx Club at its core better. You know, like you had the basic outfits, they had more of a cartoon-y look with their faces. It was fine. But as more and more time went on, you can clearly tell that they wanted to be more realistic while also sticking to more cartoony and basically do like the Frankenstein. And people started to notice. So one person on Twitter found a picture of Aisha who had the most transformations in design when it came to this. Found a picture of what Aisha's current form is going to look like. She did then a side-by-side with what a infamous AI generated picture is on the internet, and it's basically the same. She literally put them on top of each other and it's basically the same. And then to basically drive the stake into all our hearts, on Instagram, a person took a screenshot of basically Rainbow asking for people to apply who knows how to use ChatGPT, Midjourney, all of the Gen AI stuff. And then when people started talking about it, they then did a follow-up and it was like, yeah, no, we definitely don't use AI. As a matter of fact, we're now hiring for real artists. And I'm like, so which one is it? Are you hiring real artists to then feed their work into the AI machine? Allegedly. Or are you hiring real artists to then have them work for you to make AI art? Allegedly. And for a company that has a lot of money to the point where like I said, they had, season 5 through 8 contracts with Nickelodeon, and they had several movies, and they still have a lot of other IPs. I do not understand the reason why they chose, allegedly, to use AI. It could have been because they were on a time crunch. It could have been because they decided it was easier, allegedly, because that is what a lot of creators companies particularly, tend to lean towards. It's cheaper, it's faster, it's easier to just type in stuff into a prompt machine and you get art. And it's not art. I'm going to put my foot down and say AI generated or generative AI art work, whatever, is not true art or whatever, or work. It is slop. It is pure slop. And in my opinion, this is a very disgusting way to spit in the face of the Winx Club legacy. I'm not fully sure, honestly, if I even want to watch this. You guys can make up your own opinion, but in my mind, I'm not sure if I even want to watch this. Which is sad because I have wanted a good Winx Club reboot for so long. But the signs are there, and morally, I'm not even sure if I can support something like this. When they could have easily, like I said, just hired human artists to draw, to rig, because even some of these riggings look weird. Like a lot of them are flopping around and their wings, and like there's a couple scenes with Bloom where like her wings aren't even moving. The voices don't even, in my opinion, match the lip syncing, which also just could be like, it's a dub because obviously it's in Italian first and then they dub it in English. But then when I listen to the trailers, because they have like, person trailers, like individual person trailers, the voice over sounds like AI, allegedly. And like I said, this is such a big disappointment for the Winx Club legacy, and I'm not sure I'm not sure if I can support this. And it comes out in October. We have, August, September. We have 2 months before it comes out. And if it, in my opinion, also, if it still looks this bad, I'm horrified to think about what they're putting those workers through. Please, I don't know. I don't want to give it my views, but at the same time, I'm not sure if I should hate watch it. But what do you guys think, honestly? Like, what are your opinions about this? Because I am caught between a rock and a hard place between my morals and my desire to see like a reboot of a show that was my childhood growing up. But look, if you guys like this video, please go ahead, like and comment and subscribe, hit that notification bell, because algorithms honestly don't love Black queer voices unless you do. Support a girl who's out here decoding the media metrics, calling out nonsense with love, like with this, and fighting for representation like it's a full-time job, because honestly it is. And if you still didn't like it, still subscribe. You clearly have interesting tastes. I'm going to heavily consider about what my thoughts are for the upcoming videos. Oh, I have a lot of stuff planned for August. You guys cannot wait. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for you guys to see what I have in store. See you guys later. Bye.